All right, let's listen to some questions. Let's start off with the boy, Divine Eternity. Go ahead and give a listen. Oh, wait, what's going on here? Speak pipe, man.
Hey James, we're always talking about narratives and how it controls the minds of the media.
Yep.
So this is going to be sort of like a butterfly effect.
Perfect. Nobody knows more about the media than me. Former reporter, Pulitzer Prize winning newspaper, interviewed Robin Roberts twice. Everybody knows the story.
So let's say last year, we win that one game we were supposed to win. Let's say week 3, Green Bay. And let's say we finish the season, everything goes exactly the way it went. The ups, the downs, the boos, the whoos, whatever. But we still become that 10-7 NFC South division champion. We get into the playoffs, and now the narrative is shifted. The Saints have made the playoffs their first year with Derek Carr, and we did all that with Pete Carmichael, with Dennis Allen. So with that narrative being on the minds of the people, wouldn't that keep us from going after Clint Kubiak?
Yes.
And wouldn't that prevent us from actually moving off of the Breeze Sean type of Saints team that people thought we could still be?
Yes.
That's my question.
Yeah, this is a great question. It's a good point. It's something we talk about all the time, where you cannot let results drive how you think a season went. If we were to have won the game against Green Bay, where Carr got hurt, and we go 10-7, and we win the NFC South, and let's say we even get into the playoffs against Philly, same situation as Tampa, and we beat Philly, all of a sudden we're an 11-win NFC South champion who beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs, and we got to the second round of the playoffs. Everyone would have said that season was a huge success. Everyone would say Derek Carr was the greatest quarterback ever. Everybody would say Dennis Allen's turned things around. Everybody would say Pete Carmichael is this, and we would have ran it back, right? You're not going to fire your entire offensive staff after going 11-7 with a playoff win and an NFC South championship. But if we would have played the exact same, like Divine Eternity is saying here, it would have been fool's gold, because the team would have been ass. They were ass, or the offense was ass last year. Just because you get an extra win, just because Derek Carr doesn't hurt his shoulder, doesn't change the fabric of the team, doesn't change what you're seeing on the field. Which is why I always say after the games, like, there are phony wins and there are good losses. If you lose a game, but you have way more yards per game or yards per play than the other team, you have all this other stuff, and the reason you lost was because of a blocked field goal and a fumble return for a touchdown, it's like, that's probably a bad luck loss. Like, you probably should not have lost that game. You did lose the game, but it is what it is. Conversely, if you win by 3 points on a last-second field goal, but you're +6 in the turnover battle, you should have won by like 4 touchdowns. That's a bad win. The fact that you only won by 3 points at the last second on a last-second field goal after being +6 in the turnover battle, you have to look at that and say that was a horrible win. We have a lot of work to do. Some people look at that and say, they see win in the win-loss column and they say, good job. We did what we had to do. There are different wins and there are different losses. There are different seasons. There's different all kind of stuff. You cannot just look at the record. You cannot just look at playoffs. You can't look at all that stuff. You have to look at all the contributing factors. There's way too much data. There's way too many analytics. There's way too much information now to just look at 9-8 or 10-7. The Houston Texans were 10-7 last year. Were the Houston Texans one game off of us? We were 9-8. No, they were much better than us at the end of the year, right? But it's totally different circumstances. So, you got to look at everything. And that was a great question about Divine Eternity, and it's true. Like, the right now, the media has us as like somewhere between the 24th and 27th ranked team in the NFL. If we would have won the NFC South last year, all of a sudden that would have shifted the media's rankings. We would be like 15 to 20, somewhere in there. Should it shift it that much? No. It's the exact same team. The only difference is Derek Carr's shoulder getting hurt in Green Bay. But the team, the structure, the foundation, the roster, the strategy, all that stuff is the exact same. But because of one extra number in that win column, because of an injury, all of a sudden now the Saints are ranked 10 rankings higher. So it's a good example of why you have to have your own ideas, have your own analysis, believe in your ideas, believe in your analysis, do the work, look at the box scores, look at the analytics, and that's how you do it. So great question. Fantastic question right there. All right, Dustin, you're up next. 30 seconds from Dustin.
What's up, bro? My question to you is, what do you think Derek Carr's ceiling looks like? I mean, I think he's 32, maybe just turned 32. But with our team, this new system with Clint coming in, no longer do we have Pete Carmichael. What do you feel like his ceiling could be potentially moving forward? Appreciate you.
Good question. Thank you very much, Dustin, for the voice message. I think his true ceiling, probably top 10, like number 10, somewhere in there. 10th best quarterback in the NFL. And when I'm talking about a ceiling, I don't mean one game. I don't mean a quarter. I don't mean a half. Like we've seen backup quarterbacks, Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs last year against the Saints, if you just took that game, Josh Dobbs was playing like a top 5 quarterback. But Josh Dobbs' ceiling is not top 5. His ceiling for a game was. His ceiling for 4 quarters was. Is Josh Dobbs' ceiling top 5 quarterback? Absolutely not. Right? So I look at it for like a full season. Like what's his full season top end, high end? And I would say probably the 10th-ish, somewhere in there, 8, 9, 10-ish quarterback. I don't think Carr has the ceiling to be Patrick Mahomes. I don't think Carr has the ceiling to be Aaron Rodgers. Like I don't think he has the ceiling to be Joe Burrow as far as just their top end. Like Joe Burrow's top end is higher than Carr's top end, I think. Carr can be, his top end I would say is the same as like a Dak Prescott. His top end is the same as like a Kirk Cousins. That is your 8th best quarterback, 9th best quarterback, 10th best quarterback. You know, I would say the best version of Carr is pretty similar to like a really good version of Matthew Stafford. So that's how I would say a ceiling is. As far as like numbers, that's it's hard to say because you never know the actual complexities of the game. You never know the variables of what's happening within the game. But I think Carr could be in that low 4,000s. It wouldn't surprise me if Carr got in that 4,200, 4,100 kind of world. I don't know if I would the Saints throwing that much, but Carr's pretty efficient as far as like touchdowns, interceptions. So he had 25 and 11 last year, I believe, just off the top of my head. So would it shock me if Carr was 30 and 10, 30 and 12? No, right? Like, so I could see that, but again, it's so many variables, like how you're scoring. Are you scoring around the goal line? Are you throwing, so I don't put a lot of stock into just like raw numbers, but I think his ceiling, I would be comfortable saying his ceiling is somewhere that 8th, 9th, 10th quarterback, which is probably like B tier. I would say probably like a B tier quarterback, I would say. 25 and 8 last year. Yes. I mean, if you told me he was 32 and 11, would I that's believable. Let's see here. What do you think about Jordan Love's big contract? I think it's horrible. He's a mystery. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I think the contract's absolutely nuts. Chiefs team has worse wide receivers, worse DBs, worse linebackers, and has a lighter, better O-line. How do we lose? We will contain Mahomes. I mean, the Chiefs are the Super Bowl champions. Like, I get what you're saying, but they're the Super Bowl champs. So anybody can beat anybody on any given Sunday, but they are the Super Bowl champions. They have the best quarterback in the world. They have the best coach in the league. they're 8-point favorites against us for a reason. And I understand the Raiders almost beat them last year, but the Raiders lost by 3 points that game, but the Raiders are so much worse than the Chiefs. Doesn't mean they can't beat them on a random Sunday, but Saints and Chiefs are in two different stratospheres. Why do people not give Dak his credit when he's top 3 statistics as far as quarterbacks? They say playoff losses, but if that's the case, Drew is highly overrated, but we know there's more to the story. I think you have to kind of blend the two. You have to blend the statistics. You have to blend the skills. You have to blend all of that together into what you think a quarterback can do. I think Dak is in that same world of Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence, kind of in there. He's that back end, he's good. That you can win with Dak. I think Dak could get a team to a Super Bowl, but I don't think Dak is MVP level. He's on the same level as Lamar Jackson and Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers at Aaron Rodgers' peak and players like that. Dak, and you can't, and that's kind of the thing. You can't go too far either direction. You can't say it's all about wins, because then that's how all of a sudden Trent Dilfer is better than Dan Marino. You can't say it's all about stats, because then, Jameis Winston's 5,000-yard season is better than 99% of other seasons in NFL history, when that obviously is not the case. I wish people would stop praising Micah Parsons when he disappears against any team above 500, just like Dak. The Raiders beat them? Yeah, exactly. So the Raiders beat the Chiefs last year. So does that mean the Raiders are just as good as the Chiefs? No. The Raiders are way worse than the Chiefs, even though they beat them. You win if the Raiders and the Chiefs play 20 times, if the Chiefs go 16-4 against the Raiders, and the Raiders beat them 4 times, so what? That's variance. That's the variables of sport. It's the variables of the NFL. As long as the ball is oblong and bounces all over the ground, there will be variability for sure. But even if the Chiefs and Raiders play and the Chiefs won 14 times and the Raiders won 6 times, that's still enough to be it's obvious the Chiefs are a much better team. And that's being very generous. I'm not sure if Patrick Mahomes has 6 division losses in his entire career. So, all right, Corey Laverne is going to finish off the voice messages. Here we go.
All right, James. I have a video idea that you should do.
Okay.
And it should be Reggie Bush stats compared to Alvin Kamara stats. Because if you ask me, Alvin Kamara is just a glorified Reggie Bush. And Reggie Bush got a lot of hate in New Orleans and was considered a draft bust. So you should be the one to really show if that was the case, or if they were just both 2 running backs similarly in their games, and or who was better. Because, yeah. Don't even worry about the last episode.
Powerful ending. Man's just fell down some stairs or something. But I thank you for the question, and it's a good idea, and it's a good conversation, because Reggie was at a very different time of the NFL. Reggie was coming. He was coming into the pros totally different. He was coming into the pros completely different than anyone we'd ever seen at the running back position. He was returning kicks. It's crazy to think that the Saints wouldn't let him return kicks. One of his biggest or best abilities in the college was returning kicks, right? So Reggie with New Orleans, they made him run up the middle. They made him run as a true running back, because that's what was going on at the time. Alvin Kamara, Le'Veon Bell, very similar skill set to Reggie Bush. I would argue worse than Reggie. Reggie Bush is one of the greatest college football players ever lived. But they were in an era where allowed to be this like receiver / running back. They were allowed to get tosses. They were allowed to run the ball like stretch and not in between the tackles. If Reggie was coming out of college now, he'd be incredible. He'd be unbelievable. So let's take a look some of the years here. So Reggie, let's do his first 5 seasons. Let's do Kamara's first 5 seasons. All right. So if you look at Reggie, where is he? His first 5 seasons. Yeah. So his first 5, Reggie has 60 games played, Kamara has 73. I mean, you can just look at, like, you know, Kamara was way more productive in those first 5. But look at what he's asked to do. He had 3,200 receiving yards to Reggie's 2,100, 20 receiving touchdowns to his 12. Kick returns, Alvin returned 17 kicks, Reggie returned 1. Right? And then running, you can't see it in this crude comparison, but you wonder, okay, Reggie's running the ball 4 yards a carry. Not bad, right? But what kind of runs are these? Look at the rushing touchdowns, 47-17. You wonder, are these runs up the middle? What do these receptions look like? Are these receptions just dump passes, or is he actually running routes? You know, like Reggie wasn't allowed to be Reggie. Then you look at someone like Le'Veon Bell. Let's do his first 5 seasons. You look at Le'Veon Bell, and all of a sudden it's like, man, hold on a second. This guy's way better than Reggie Bush, right? I mean, he's got more receptions, exact same amount of games almost. More receptions, more yards, way more rushing yards, way more attempts. And we all know how Le'Veon played. Like, Le'Veon's style in Pittsburgh was completely fresh, completely new, completely different. At one point, I remember people saying that that it would be better for Le'Veon to be a full-time receiver than running back when he was in his contract dispute. Do this again. Veteran results. And the reason I have Steven Jackson is there is because Steven Jackson kind of was in the same situation as Reggie Bush, where Steven Jackson, all of a sudden the game changed, where Steven Jackson became this like LaDainian Tomlinson kind of player instead of just pounding the ball up the middle. So you look at Steven Jackson's first year in the NFL, okay? But then if we go let's look at 3rd to 7th or something like that. You look at Steven Jackson's 3rd through 7th years. I mean, look at the production. The production is insane. So it just shows you the different eras and how the usage of running backs and usage of players matter. I think Reggie was just unfortunately, I think Reggie was just one of those things where he was just in a bad era and he wasn't utilized properly. He wasn't utilized the way he should have been. And it was really unfortunate. It was really unfortunate. Kamara, I mean, Steven Jackson, what a player. What a player. He was so much fun to watch. 461 catches. Wild. Yeah, Steven Jackson was awesome. But yeah, I mean, Reggie, I hold to this day that I think Reggie Bush would have been an MVP level player when if he would have just came in the league a couple years later. So he played in Miami is really where he was his best. I mean, you look at what he did with the Saints. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So his first 5 years with the Saints. That's what we did, right? So we guessed it perfectly. Yeah, I mean, look at these numbers. There's kind of whatever, right? And then he goes to Miami. He's legit. So then 6, 7, 8. So you look at Reggie Bush. Can we do Reggie versus Reggie? Let's do 6. Or let's see, 2010. Yeah, so we need to do 2011 through 2013. Okay, let's see. Reggie. Let's see if I can do this. Choose season. So 6 through, what did I say, 2013? All right. Through. All right, so we just take these out. We look at Reggie. Oh no, we'll do this with Alvin too. This will be good. This is going to be a good show here. All right, so let's do Alvin's first 4 seasons, and then Alvin without Peyton. All right, so look at this. This is going to be interesting. Oh, they didn't do what I wanted. Damn it. Damn, I messed this up. We do Reggie versus Reggie? Oh, man. Stathead messed me up here. But the whole point is, if you look at Reggie from 2011, when he went to Miami, to 2013 with Detroit, he's got almost 3,000 yards, almost 1,000 yards a season. He's got where's his touchdowns? He's got 6 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns, 16 touchdowns. You look at New Orleans, totally different, right? He's got 500 yards, 400, 300, 150. It's a totally different system. He's being asked to do something totally different. You look at Alvin Kamara, it's probably the exact same thing, where Alvin Kamara was really good early in his career with Sean Payton when he's being asked to do something different, when he's being utilized in a different way. Then you look at without Sean Payton, everything goes down. Right, you look at without Sean Payton, all of a sudden we get totally different as far as production level and what he's being asked to do running the ball. He drops to this like 3.7 yards a carry, and then 4, and then 3.9. Whereas up here, he's got 6.1 yards a carry, 4.6, 4.7, 5, 16 touchdowns, 14 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara hasn't had over 5 touchdowns since 2020. That's crazy. And most of that is because of usage. Most of that's because of how he's running the football. Most of that's because of the scheme, the setup, the strategy, all that. So, a lot of a player is not just their skill set. It's how they are being asked to use that skill set, where they are being asked to do that. If you took someone like Alvin Kamara and you ask him to be a in between the tackles, halfback dive kind of running back, it's not going to work.